It is Wednesday, August 17th. I want to welcome you to the committee meeting this morning. I'm joined by my good friend and council member Tony Cardenas. We do not have a quorum at this time, but this committee will move forward. Any action that we take will be deemed a communique of the chair. Mr. City Attorney, I have several general public comment cards. Maybe I could go into that first, if legally you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. With that said, let me call Mr. Bill Huey up first. Bill, after him will be Frank Romero, and is that Juto Romero? Please come forward. And Al Sabo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Councilman West and Councilman Cardenas. My name is Bill Huey. I'm the president of Fair Housing Coalition. Our whole thing is that we believe in fairness and equality under the law for landlords and renters. We're not anti-renters because renters are our customers. Now, I've spoken in front of City Council for a couple of years about issues that we feel the Housing Authority, LA Housing Department is very unfair to the landlords. I started going on the media. Yesterday was my third appearance on KFWB radio, talk radio on Money 101 with Bob McCormick. The phone lines lit up. There's landlords all over LA that feel the LA Housing Department is 150% unfair. And I'll just give you a couple examples real quick. Number one, a tenant can commit a code violation that can put the landlord in REAP, but he cannot evict the tenant. Now that's unfair. I'm saying, look, I know there's tenants in the room. I'm going to say 90% of the tenants are good people. And it's just like landlords, you know, you got 10% who are evil, 10% who are angels, and 80% are in a gray area. That's humanity, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, or whatever. But what happens is a tenant can commit a code violation, for example, store a lot of junk in the apartment, store a lot of trash outside. You can tell him, look, you got to clean this up. He ignores you. The inspector comes, takes you to a hearing, and you go in REAP. I got put in REAP over that. And I think if you're going to go in REAP and almost lose your property, you should have the right to evict that tenant. Also, there are tenants that bring flammables into an apartment, and they bring crime and violence into a building, and they actually put the life and property of other tenants at risk. So we're just saying, I think the majority of renters in LA would not want somebody in their building who brings in crime, domestic violence, or brings in hazardous materials that puts their life at risk. So that's what I'm saying, and I'd love to meet with you and go over a few things if you want to sit down with me.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Frank Romero.
Yes, my name is Frank Romero. The reason I'm here is because the systematic code enforcement, he went to a property that consists of 8 houses, and he put 4 violations. Very minor violations. Then I told the inspector that I could do it right away, to come the following week, and he said, no, I cannot do it. And I said, why? He said, because we follow the schedule. It has to be 40 days after. And then, by then, a tenant hang up some pictures and make tiny little holes on the wall, and when he went back again, he saw the holes, and he said he had to fill those up and paint them, and then one handle fell down in the meantime, and the kid took it off. So then we asked him, my manager asked him, he was going to put it on. He said, no, it's too late, I'm going to put it. So they gave me a fine of $201.50, which I think is unfair. But actually, I'm not here just for you to know how arbitrarily they are. They give you 30 days to pay the fine. If you don't pay the fine in 30 days, they charge over 200% late fee. In other words, they charge you $505.25 late fee.
On top of the 200.
On top.
Yeah, on top of the 200. If I would do that to a tenant, to anybody, I'd be in jail. And this, I'm going to leave this with you. because this has happened. I'm a long-time landlord. When the code enforcement started, it was Merced Marquez. I think you remember her.
Yes.
Okay.
Mercedes.
And this man, Domingo Sauceda, is the architect of these things, because I know he implemented this. And still, I complained then,
Mr. Romero,
10
thank
years
you.
ago.
You ran out of time.
Okay, I just wanted to give you this,
Yeah, please give that.
and I'm going to tell you
Please,
that
please. thank-
Domingo Saucedo is
Thank
the
you.
one with
Thank you.
Mercedes Marquez
Thank
who
you.
implemented these laws
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
arbitrarily.
Hi.
We'll make
Yeah,
sure,
good morning.
they'll make copies for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I also want to say how unfair the code enforcement is to landlords. Landlords are supposed to be responsible for everything. When tenants do something, they never get a citation. So why, when tenants do something wrong, do they not get a citation? Does that seem fair to you? Yeah. So why is code enforcement just blatantly ignoring the landlord's plight? And you can tell them, well, I didn't do it, you know, the tenant is responsible for it, and they just ignore it. That's all I
So,
have.
for example, excuse me, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
go right ahead.
For example, say if a tenant's a hoarder,
Yeah,
tenant hoards things.
yeah, has boxes and junk all
And then
over.
it just so happens that the tenant is hoarding a lot of things, and there's, for example, old food in the unit.
And the
are you-
cockroaches
are you-
come, and then the
Are you
landlord
saying that
is...
the landlord, for that infraction, or that issue, you're saying the landlord gets cited for having an unhealthy situation?
Yes.
Because of that hoarding? You're saying the landlord
Yeah.
gets cited, you're saying that the tenant does not get cited, or are you saying that they both get cited sometimes?
No, the tenant, we have apartments, it never has happened that the tenant has been cited. It's
Okay.
always the landlord who is supposed to take care of the,
So
Tenant.
you're saying by your experience, every time there's a sighting that you're familiar with, regardless of what the cause is, whether it's a roof leak, which is not a tenant direct issue, right?
Yeah,
But
no, no,
If it's
the
a
roof,
hoarding
we
issue or
do,
something
yeah.
along those lines, regardless of what it came from or the cause was, your experience is that they always cite the landlord and not the tenant, or not even both. It's just one side.
the tenant will not get cited, just the landlord.
Thank you.
And that's very unfair, and I wish you would change that.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, Mr. Sabo.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Al Sabo, and I'm a resident and a renter of downtown Los Angeles. I haven't been here for a while simply because I was fulfilling my civic duty on a 6-month jury trial, and after that, I've been in and out of the hospital for the past 4 months or so. But the issue with the rent stabilization ordinance is so important to renters and landlords alike that I came here to address this committee hoping that we can get some positive action. In fact, we even stopped at Chair Wesson's office, talked with one of his staff members, and asked for a meeting between tenants and landlords so that we can discuss the issues such as the ones that the landlords just presented here, their problems, and the types of problems we have. Many of us are on fixed income. We've been on fixed income for a number of years. My Social Security hasn't been raised in the last 2 years, and when we do get raises, it's probably only 1% or 2%. So when you have something that is unsustainable to us, such as an automatic 3% increase annually, plus an additional 2%, that 5% increase in rent over a period of time, over just a few years, is unsustainable to many of us. So these are problems that we feel we can work out with the landlord, some of their issues and some of our issues, if we just sit down and talk at a bargaining table. We don't want to talk to their attorneys, we want to talk to them directly, the people who truly matter. And this issue is so important to all of us that we come here seeking your support. And if we can get that support, and I know it's important to you too, because there are special interest groups such as landlords who are a small minority when you really consider their voting power. But there are hundreds of thousands of us out there in LA that are affected by the rent stabilization ordinance as it is now. And we just ask for some relief, and we feel that if we can set up this meeting with the landlords and hopefully get their backing and your backing, we can get this thing resolved so we can put an ordinance on that will take into account situations such as we are today. I'm sure when the rent stabilization ordinance was passed several years ago, no one ever envisioned that we'd be in such a deep recession as we are. These things do happen occasionally, as we now know, so we should be prepared and write the ordinance accordingly to take that into account. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sabo. Mr. Woods, Mr. Porter, Gavin Corona.
Yeah, but I'm going to work the timer first. So-
I wanted him to look at it before I spoke.
Okay, why don't we start over on the right?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Davin Corona. I'm a tenant here in LA, and I'm also a member of a local NGO, Comunidad Presente. Well, I think you all know why we're here, and we're constantly here, I think, engaging in, and I guess, you know, what the civic duty should be, participatory democracy of some sort. And I guess for us, to be honest with you, you know, there's two different sides. We just want something now to be hashed out. Something needs to be done. I would agree with some of the landlords here. I think code enforcement could be better, but actually I think it should be strengthened. But at the same time, I think some of the basic issues like rent increases and just what the study that we pay tax dollar money for came up with, it's time to do something. And so we're ready to sit down, talk about it, hash it out. It isn't going to be easy. We're not talking about, you know, getting everything tenants want, because it's a compromise. We understand that, but something has to be done, and that's why we're here again, to make sure, you know, this is the housing committee that, you know, really focuses on these issues, and you all have the leadership and take the lead on it. And so we're hoping we can start moving forward. It's going to be another year again. The year's ticking little by little, and something needs to happen. And so that's the reason why we're here, so I'm just going to keep it brief and short.
Thank you. Mr. Porter.
Oh, my name is James Porter, and I'm a member of Los Angeles Community Action Network, known as LA CAN. I'm here today to bring attention to the following facts on July 20. I was part of a group of tenants and tenant advocates that met with Council Member Weston staff person Andrew Westall, who stated that we would be having a public hearing on pending RSO reforms today. Additionally, a committee was made on behalf of the council office that a meeting will be organized between landlords and tenants in an attempt to create some compromise between both parties. This meeting has fallen through the cracks of council office, with no communication happening between the council office and the affected parties. This type of leadership is not the type of leadership we are in need of at this movement. Over 640,000 units will be facing rent increase again in the coming year. If the city fails to act in a timely manner again, we will likely firmly request the council office place this item on the agenda and act upon these reforms. And Mr. Westall, if you can't make arrangement with the landlords, all we ask you to do, let us know, because you haven't responded to our request. So let us know something. You know, if you can't make arrangements.
You be assured Andrew will respond to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weston.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Woods?
Good morning. I'm a resident of downtown Los Angeles, been there for 17 years. The pictures I'm giving you here I've complained numerous of times to the manager about dogs going through the hole, no leash, leaving urine, the other stuff in front of my door. You see that happened last night.
I see it.
And the dogs, and they don't do anything about it. The bed bug problem, the same thing. Right across the hall from me, the guy just moved in there. They sprayed 4 times before he moved in there. He got bed bugs so bad, and 4 weeks done passed. Now they want to come and inspect my unit when I was telling them to do a pre around my doors. But they are actually causing the problem because the guy is doing nothing but spraying water. He's spraying nothing but water because it's not killing the bed bugs. When you take 4 weeks to do a unit, now they want to come to your unit and inspect your unit. They're supposed to get on that right away, but they let time pass and let them think.
Landlords.
The landlord, yes. Diane, because I assume she's the manager.
Well, I don't know the name.
Well, no, well, right. But the bottom line is, sir, you got good landlords, but you got a lot of landlords that really don't care. And if we have to continue to pay rent and live like that, it don't make no sense. When you have to go and buy your own bed bug spray because they don't come in time, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, we working on it. And I do precaution. And then they don't pay for washing your clothes or nothing. They are not moving fast enough. They had Terminex there. They had Orkin. But they did not keep them people because Orkin and Terminex would not give them a discount. And this company they got now is doing nothing but spraying water. And you got people that are living out their bag. People, they put their stuff in the bag, then they don't show up. A person told me that last night. So something needs to be done. We need a rent reduction in this until this stuff gets swept away. Because the landlords had their ride for a while. The tenants need a relief now, sir.
Well, it sounds like you need a little more than that.
Yes.
So, there's like no leash
No.
policy or anything?
And they said that they're working on it.
I see the dog.
And you see the date down there?
I don't see.
Down at the bottom, the date. I just taken it last night.
What, is this the apartment?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Hey, now that,
I mean, no, I didn't mean, no. See, there's no disrespect to you here. I'm trying to do this the best way I can, sir.
no,
That's the hallway. And the dog just roam, and you know that's what dog does.
I know.
They smell, they find out who has been there.
I know.
Yeah.
I've had dogs since I was a kid. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So the bottom line is, we need a relief. All Angelina need a relief right now. You got good landlords, but you got a whole bunch of bad ones out there.
I agree with you, Mr.
So we need to come to some common grounds with that. With the bed bug problems, the urination problem, and the caca problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. Thelmy Perez, Steve Diaz, Sabrina Simmons. Ms. Perez.
Good morning, members of the committee. I'm going to keep it short. I think you know why we're here. We are hoping that pretty soon we'll be able to get into the discussion formally of the rent stabilization ordinance reform. It's been over a year. It's July 1st has come and gone. We're into the next fiscal year, so we're really hoping that we can start discussing some of the real issues that are happening out there. My community continues to experience a very high vacancy rate every week or every day. When I take my dogs out, I do see, couches, mattresses, furniture on the sidewalks. These are folks that are moving out of their homes because they can't afford their rents. So I really hope we can push this forward and come to a compromise. And then I don't usually address other speakers, but I do want to address some of the code enforcement comments that were made earlier. Landlords do have the right to cite their tenants themselves if they're feeling like there's an issue going on in their property that's a health concern. I've also walked through hundreds of inspections with both the health department and also the housing department. Tenants do get cited, oftentimes for infractions that may have been caused by the tenant. And also I have been to Mr. Huey's property himself. His neighbors don't have good things to say about him. His property is in shambles. So the REAP is probably a good idea on that property, and that's where he himself lives. So I just wanted to put that out there. But my main issue here is that we move along with the rent stabilization ordinance reform.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Diaz.
Yeah, similar to Ms. Perez's comments, I just want to highlight once again the comments that were made by other folks during public comment. The Los Angeles Housing Department Code Inspection Program does have numerous issues with it. One, of course, is the timing that a landlord is given in terms of fixing something up. If a landlord says he's going to fix something up in 30 days, they give him an extension. If a tenant has a hoarding problem, he doesn't get an extension. So that's a problem with the code enforcement program. The landlord can say, I need more time. The housing department gives them more time. If the housing department comes out, sees that a tenant is hoarding, it gets called to the public health department. Public health department comes out, a tenant gets given a written notice by the health department, as well as what's called a notice to cure or quit by the landlord, which he only has 3 days to respond to. If he does not respond in those 3 days, the landlord has the ability to evict the tenant then at that time. So there is clearly unfair balance between what a landlord gets and what a tenant gets. A tenant should be getting the extension as well, just like a landlord can get. And just to close real quick, I want to make sure that it's clear that as well as some of the mechanisms with the reprogram are horrible as well, but one of the things that they do is they do ensure that properties that have not got fixed in a long time and complied with city requirements, that there is a trust account set up so that the tenants can have some sort of balance between what they're paying and what the property's what the landlord is offering in terms of a property. In closing, Mr. Weston, I hope that you move forward this year in terms of the RSO reforms. We've been in conversations with everybody. Everybody's waiting for you, sir. Please do it before you come Council President. Thank you.
Okay, now this is the last speaker. It's a Mr. James Jackson. Ms. Simmons.
Hi.
Hi. Mr. Jackson, come on forward. There's enough room. Mr. Jackson, come on
Are you
up.
hearing me? My time's ticking by.
No, I'll start it all over again.
Okay.
Have a seat. We'll start our clock all over, Sharon, and it's Miss Sabrina Simmons.
Yes.
Go.
I see 157, 156.
Okay, wait.
We'll give you a whole extra...
No,
30
Sharon, don't worry about it. I'll let you finish.
Okay. Now,
Let her start. I'm going to give you the first, Sharon. I'm going to tell you when to start the clock. So you just put it on 2 minutes and hold it. I'm waiting on you, Sharon.
Okay.
All right, now hold it. I will say, start. Miss Simmons, don't start. You start.
The speaker can begin.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to say that, yes, we absolutely, positively need some serious reform with the code enforcement. There is entirely too much of the tail wagging the dog, and I mean that in the sense, tail wagging the dog. Yeah, you seem to be having a little trouble with that, Councilman
I'm
Cardenas.
a little slow.
Okay.
But the clock-
And what I mean by that is
see.
that the tenants are definitely completely ruling the way things are run in the city of Los Angeles. There is a general animosity from the authorities regarding landlords, and it is assumed anytime you go into anything dealing with the Los Angeles Housing Department or even the courts of Los Angeles that the landlord is in some way not only incredibly rich, but more than happy to in some way harm the tenant. There doesn't seem to be any consideration that the tenant, in fact, may be causing some of these issues because, in fact, they end up benefiting from things that they can damage within the apartment, call the housing department and say, oh, this is messed up. They come out and say, oh, well, you better fix this. Well, you can only do that so many times before a landlord becomes quite irritated at that and says, okay, you keep breaking it, that must be the way you like it. Okay, so you might want to, as my mom would say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. And think about that for a while before you jump up and start saying, oh, horrible, horrible landlords, we need to do something in favor of the tenants. You've already done quite a lot in favor of the tenants. Now, with regard to the REAP situation, I would like to know, have you guys seen this? Is this familiar to any of you?
I can't see it from here. Just go on and finish with your thoughts.
Because my point with that flyer is that a big problem is that the tenants have all kinds of outreach groups for them. The landlords whose property is in REAP have nearly no outreach programs for them, and yet the housing department and a number of council people would want you to believe that, oh, no, everything is quite skewed in favor of the landlord. And I would like to point out that if indeed there is so much favor for the landlord, at the very least, don't you think that that flyer should be included with each and every bill that goes out to the landlord?
Ms. Simmons, thank you very much. We've been joined by Councilmember Alarcon, so we do have a quorum. And that brings us to Mr. Jackson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is James Jackson, and I own 100 units. I have storages and other things. My complaint is the attitude of the inspectors that come out. I got called on a Monday that I had to be somewhere at 5 o'clock. About 3 o'clock I get called, or 2 o'clock I get called. The inspector can't make it. At that time, he wants to come now. I'm across the valley, and I said, I can't make it. And he said, if you don't make it. Anyway, I made it back. I dropped what I was doing, ran back, and then I waited for the inspector a half hour before the inspector was there. And then I said, you're late. And she very calmly notified me that she can come when she wants and enter any property at any time. With that, I got a little upset. I don't think so, and I hope not. I hope that's not the truth. And I'm kind of asking that question to you people. Is it the truth? I don't think so. Anyway, the thing ended up in a revenge mode. She cited me for a laundry room and said there was no permits. The building was built in 1955, and all the permits on plumbing are discarded or have been discarded by the city. It's even published by the plumbing department in one of their forms. So I ended up having to go out and buy new permits for the laundry room that had been there since 1955.
Go on, finish your thought.
The next thing is, they made me tear down a patio that was built with the building because they couldn't find a permit. And they told this young lady that it's partly because I was cross with the inspector. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. In fact, thank all of you for coming. That ends our public comment. At this point, Anne Marie, since we do have a quorum, why don't we begin by taking up items 4, 5, and 6? If we start with item 4.
Okay. Los Angeles Housing Department and CAO reports relative to authority to release requests for proposals for the Handy Worker Program for program year 2012-13 and related actions.
Okay. On item 4, without objection, we'll adopt the CAO report. Item 5.
Los Angeles Housing Department and CAO reports relative to authority to extend the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation grant award period from December 31st, 2011 through December 31st, 2012, and appropriate funds accordingly.
Okay. On that item, we'll adopt the CAO report. Brings us to item 6.
Item 6, Community Development Department and CAO reports relative to authority to execute a $12.5 million city loan agreement with Snyder Vermont LLC to provide funding assistance for the development of the Vermont Project, a mixed-use residential and retail project located at 3150 Wilshire Boulevard.
On item 6, we'll adopt the CAO report on that item as well. That brings us to items 1, 2, and 3. Let's begin with item 1.
Item 1, all right. Communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Mitchell came in to the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles for the term ending June 6, 2015.
You know what? I think we'll do something a little different here. We'll keep you there, Mr. Kamen. Item 2 is the reappointment of Pete Navarro, who is not here today, but an individual that the members of this committee do not have a problem with. He's had a family emergency. So if we could just, members, move forward, recommend his appointment to the full council, because I think this item's going to be held today.
Yes.
And so that dispenses of item 2. And item 3, why don't we have, it's another reappointment. Why don't we have Armin come on up, read this item, and then we'll just question them at the same time.
Okay. Item number 3, also in council today, a communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of the Honorable Armand Arabian to the Industrial Development Authority Board of Directors for the term ending June 30th, 2014.
Okay, we'll start with you, Mr. Kamen. Give us why, where did you, get your desire to serve, and, give us the 10-cent tour on your background and all of that good stuff.
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Good morning. I'm a second-generation native Angelino and care deeply about the city. I also have had for a long time been a public interest lawyer for about 7.5 years until last fall. I was the CEO of Betsedek Legal Services, where I worked on behalf of the constituents who are served by the Housing Authority. So that's literally the 10-second sketch of why this matters to me and why I want to do it.
How long were you at Betsedek?
I was the CEO for about 7.5 years. I'm now back in private practice. I'm a partner at the law firm of Bird Morella.
100 years ago, the CEO was former Councilman Mike Feuer.
That's right.
And I don't remember the exact issue, but he was so passionate about his job. I was a chief deputy to a councilman at that time. I received a phone call from him at 3:15 a.m. Really? So obviously he and I got off on a rocky start, but that's just to show the commitment that he had. And by the phone call, I was able to, make calls 7-ish. At least I waited till the sun was shining, and we were able to hold off an eviction of a senior citizen. So I know the agency, and I know it well. That was my 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m., and that was my phone call.
I never called council members after 12 midnight.
Okay. Bless you then. Armin.
Armand Arabian.
Speaking to the mic.
Armand Arabian, retired member from the California Supreme Court. I served the courts for 24 years, not including 1 year as a DA. That was my first job in LA County. Since my retirement in '96, I've been arbitrating, mediating, doing some lawyering. I was appointed by the mayor to this committee 2 years ago.
I remember.
Faithfully attended. I think I missed maybe one out of all of them. It's a tough time, as we all know. Money is short, the ability to borrow is short, but this place still has to go forward and create jobs and improve the community a lot, and that's basically what the job is all about. One interesting side note, which I'd like to tell you about.
Please.
When the mayor wrote his first letter a couple of years ago, with this appointment, he said, I'm appointing you as a commissioner of the IDA. Well, everything else that we get, including our little name tags and all, says Board of Directors. So a couple of months ago, we had the city attorney representative there. I said, what's going on here? Are we commissioners or are we a Board of Directors? So she was kind enough to go back into the records during Mayor Bradley's term is when they created this, and they very specifically said Board of Directors. So the word commission had been thrown around for all this time up until just recently. But in this most recent letter of reappointment, it said Board of Directors. I thought that was kind of interesting how long that had lasted without it being picked up. So
Well, that's why it was fortuitous that you were put on this committee, and
that's why I still miss my day job.
well, I'll just say,
Honorable under any other name.
yeah, honorable, definitely. I believe that it is always smart to have relationships with judges and retired judges, so I have no questions where it relates to your ability to serve, and I'm excited to support you. I do think you bring a high level of intellect and experience, and again, the city is fortunate that you want to step in and help us out. And, Mr. Kamen, given your background, I have no doubts that you'll come in and do a wonderful job as well. At this point, I want to see if any of my fellow colleagues here have any questions or anything they'd like to say.
I just wanted to
Mr. Alarcon.
Justice Arabian,
Yeah.
what his thoughts were when the other nominee said he had served for a long time as a public interest lawyer.
Thank you.
Well, I was let me say it into the mic. I was curious what your thoughts were when he said he served for a long time as a public interest lawyer.
What about that?
Given your experience, a long time is...
Does he look like he served a long time?
I don't think he served a long time in anything.
He served a long time. I'm in the ancient court.
All right. Mr. Cardenas, you're good?
No, I just want to thank
Okay.
him for the service. Thank you.
Then without objection, on item 1, we will recommend Mr. Kamen's appointment to the council be heard today, and we'll do the same on item 3. Again, thank you both for your service. So that'll be the order.
Thank you very much, all.
You're welcome. Is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
Then this committee is adjourned.
Thank you.